Hello everyone, and welcome back to my home office remodeling project. If you missed my last video, I showed you how I custom built the bookcase and the cabinetry you see behind me. And in this video, I'm going to be restoring both of these two desks. The desk on my right is a bulky one, but it was built to last forever. And this desk also has a really cool detail along the middle and the three areas in the top that I want to be able to preserve. In both cases, the desks are pretty beaten up, both from use and from being moved around so much. So I'm going to be stripping them down, doing some repairs, and then refinishing them. As is the case with my other projects, you can find out more information about this project on my blog, eyecatcherliving.com. I've included a link below so you can check on that at any time. I use Citristrip, which is a non-toxic stripping gel, on a disposable brush to remove the stain on the desk. I let the gel sit for 30 minutes before I remove the first layer of stain using a disposable plastic putty knife. I could quickly tell it would take another coat of gel to remove the stain. The next day I applied the gel to both desks for over an hour to see if the results were different. While the gel was doing its work, I shifted to doing some of the repair work on the larger desk. This whole section here came off at some point, so I'm going to rebuild this using wood filler. So I now have the wood filler on. This is probably going to take a few coats to resolve. I'm going to let this dry for probably about 24 hours before I touch it again, just to make sure everything settles properly. Then I strip the coating off of both desks. The wood was pretty wet from the gel, so it was difficult to immediately see the results. With the two desks drying out, I did more repair work to the damaged areas of the larger desk using wood glue and wood filler. So I've now done 2 coats of the stain stripper on the side of the desk here. Let it dry out for about 24 hours. Looks like a lot of the varnish and stain has come off. Next I'm going to be using 100 grit sandpaper to take out all the rough remnants that are still left over, and then I'll go over it with a finer 150 grit to 200 grit sandpaper. The rest of the stain came off easily with my power sander. I also used my Oscillating multi-tool to sand down the narrower areas. With that done, I switched back to the areas I repaired and did a preliminary sanding job. The detail in the drawer required multiple coats of wood filler. At this stage, my wife pointed out just how much dust I had created from the sanding, including onto the bookshelves I had just finished building. I had to take everything out to our garage. Once there, I added a coat of the gel to the rest of the smaller desk. Then I sanded down the areas of the base I had repaired with the wood filler. So I've now finished doing 2 rounds of with the stripping agent. I let it sit between a half an hour and a little bit over an hour to see if that had any difference on the impact on the surfaces. It didn't really. I still had to do 2 coats regardless. It left behind a bit of a sticky and gooey residue that I would let dry out overnight so I can sand it down. I've also done some repair work using wood filler around the base of the desk. Next up, I'm going to start sanding down these surfaces and see if I can get it down smooth enough to start staining. So I've now finished sanding the desk down. It took a little bit, took quite a while to get the surfaces smooth, but I think they're prepared and ready to go. I'm going to start staining the desk now using this Miniwax gel stain. It's a mahogany color. I'm going to start a little bit on the side of the desk to make sure that I like how it looks before doing the rest of the desk. I used this staining pad to work the stain into the wood and into the hard to reach areas. The staining pad really helped with applying a consistent coat across the surfaces and detail areas. So I've now finished staining the desk and the drawers. The last thing I'm going to do is add some of this lemon polish to the inside of the drawers so I can keep them protected. So I'm now ready to start working on the second desk. I've already attempted to just sand it down instead of using a stripping agent. It seemed to work pretty well. So I'm going to use 220 grit sandpaper to sand it down and smooth it out. The oscillating multi-tool got really hot from the lengthy operation, and that ended up melting the stain onto the sandpaper surface. So I switched to 150 grit sandpaper for the detail areas. Then the power sander with 100 grit sandpaper for the larger areas. While the 100 grit was effective, I was going through it quickly, so I got some 80 grit sandpaper to get the worst of the stain off. Then went back over everything with 150 grit to smooth everything out. With the surfaces smooth, I worked on staining the desk. The top surfaces were definitely the most challenging to work on. The drawers to the desk were full, so I stacked them up to stain them. With the larger desk stained, I added 2 coats of fast-drying polyurethane to the top of the smaller desk. So the 2 desks are now refinished and ready to use. The mahogany stain looks great on them. Using the 80 grit sandpaper followed by the 150 to 200 grit sandpaper was the more effective way to get off the old stain. And using the staining pad really made it a lot easier to apply the stain evenly across the desk surfaces. More information about this project is available on my blog, eyecatcherliving.com. I'll be posting another update about the home office remodel once I've finished that project. In the interim, be sure to check out this other video about how I built out the custom bookcase and cabinetry for this room. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.